Then I might look to the next thing on my short list.
Well, and you got to think, it's like, okay, is there a reason for this? Maybe this market just doesn't search in Google. I mean, that happens. Like, there are markets that there's not much volume in Google, but in MSN, for whatever reason, because, I mean, just as an example, maybe more women in that age bracket like using MS. I mean, there are markets like that. I mean, they're a little more few and far between. So you do got to remember, it's like, is there a reason why the search numbers I'm looking at here are really low? So that's something to consider. All right, so keyword research tools, they're great metrics. They give you some relative comparisons, to compare different ideas on your list or to refine your niche, but don't get totally hung up on the numbers as well. So the Google AdWords keyword tool is one great place to go because, they give you, at least supposedly, some pretty accurate numbers as far as when it comes to Google. So that is one place that we like to go, and wordtracker.com is another one. Now, even if you let's say that you dive into an idea then. So you're listening to what we're saying and you're going, okay, well, maybe the competition was a little high, but I decided, or, you're kind of like, I'm not sure. I don't want to just get squashed out of this competitive market or, whatever your hang up might be. You got to really be honest with yourself and ask yourself, okay, am I just using this as a convenient excuse? And one thing I like to do when there's clearly inaction and there's a good chance that especially if there's a good chance it's because of anxiety or fear, is to ask myself, well, really what's the worst thing that can happen? So let's say you dove in, like I did with my podcasting niche, and you decide, I'm going to put up a blog, I'm going to start creating some content, maybe I'll do a podcast, and I'm going to give this a few months, and I'm going to see what happens. What do you really have to lose? And here's the truth of the matter is that, especially if you're using our system, what we teach you in the academy, you can get up and going for less than $30 a month, maybe $25-$30 a month at most, to get your email list management and the blog's free, hosting less than $10 a month. So, even if you spend 6 months trying out a niche, you can definitely do that with only spending maybe a couple $100. I mean, sure, you can spend more if you want to go after paid traffic and some things like that, but at the very least, you can definitely get a site going and test a market out for a couple $100. So that's not a whole lot of money that you're having to put at risk. Now, I know for a lot of people, it's like, well, I want to, I'm really anxious to get this going. I'm putting all my hopes and dreams on having this work. I don't want to feel like I'm wasting time. And, none of us want to waste time, but sometimes, it's just, you make decisions and you just see where things go and then you tweak based on what happens and what you learn. And we gave the analogy last time, and we give this a lot about you just got to start going to bat. You step into the stadium, you step up to the plate, and you go to bat as many times as you can. Because even if you got to the end of, say, a 6-month test, let's say you take 6 months, test out a new thing on a niche. And let's say just not enough sales, not enough action to really keep you excited and going. And let's say you have to abandon it. Even if you have to abandon it, it will still have been worth the time and the money that you spent going through that process. It'll still have been worth a couple $100 in the 6 months of, maybe a few hours a week or several hours a week, whatever you put into it. It'll still have been absolutely 100% worth it because you will have learned a lot of money. I mean, thinking back again to what I said at the beginning of the episode about, making my first little short film documentary. It's like, well, you know what? I just need to get through the process because I know each time I'm going to get faster at it. I'm going to get better at it. I'm going to learn some new things. And, now after a few years, it's to the point that if I started a niche tomorrow and that's all I was working on, like when we're talking in a matter of a month, I could prove a market out. And really some of them I might even be able to do in a few days. In fact, we have some colleagues who they do in a matter of a few days, they get something up and going and kabam, and then they're on to the next thing and they'll see, so The key to internet marketing is taking action. It's going to bat often enough until you just start, either you get enough doubles to make money or you start knocking them out of the park, whichever the case may be. So that's definitely something very important to keep in mind.
Well, and the other thing to realize about us personally is neither one of us still has all the businesses we started. Things failed, things did just okay, and we later decided that it wasn't worth the time we were putting into it. I mean, really, what you need to understand about internet business is that you need to fail fast and fail forward. Just keep going. If it doesn't work, do the next one. And let's see if I can get this right. I remembered something that Anthony Robbins, I remember hearing him once say quite a long time ago, and it was something like, how long would you give a baby to learn how to walk before you stop them? And don't let them learn anymore.
Yeah.
And go, you've tried 10 times. Sorry, you don't get to try and walk anymore. I mean, and it was an interesting thing. You've got to really think long term with this. I mean, If you get the first one up and it makes you $1,000 a month and that happened to be your goal, awesome. If the first one you get up makes you $350 a month and that's it, then you just learned something. You now know that level. And if it didn't do anything, believe me, there's been things that I tried that just didn't work out. And I learned huge lessons from them every single time. I'm like, oh, now I know why that didn't work.
Yeah.
And you just have to not choose to quit. You just keep learning, keep doing more, and sooner or later you will have the goal that you're looking for.
And, I've even pursued things where I ended up losing several $1,000s, and then I kept going. Now, here's the good news is you've got the, Internet Business Mastery community, and you've got our podcast, and you've got the academy, so that you don't have to lose several $1,000s. It's only maybe a couple $100 that over several months that you're putting up to test out a business idea. But that's just to say, like I have gone after something to the tune of several $1,000s, and then had to just scrap it and move on. And some people, it's way worse than that. I mean, that's why we love internet business, is because we don't have to put up millions and billions and wait 2 years to see if we can get in the black like some businesses. And it comes down to this. I mean, internet business, there's some specifics that you can learn and some things that you can do to stack everything in your favor as much as possible. But in the end, it's not an exact science either. We teach you proven techniques. We teach you things that have worked for us. We teach you the things we wish we had known when we had gotten started. So hopefully you can learn from our mistakes and make things happen in months rather than years. And so you stack it in your favor as much as possible. But here's the real magic. I mean, it doesn't come down to numbers and like, okay, I just scored 100 or greater on this little quiz for choosing a niche, so now I know I'll succeed. Sadly, it just doesn't work that way. The real magic in internet business is this. It's how fast and cheaply you can get started and take action and implement. Okay? So at some point, you just have to take the leap. If you know this is something you want to do, you just get started.
Yeah, first you basically have to believe you can and ignore people telling you that you can't or that it doesn't work. It does work for those who choose to master it. We're proof. We really are regular guys that made it work. But then you have to find the system to believe in and then take action right away. Don't do what we did and learn it all the hard, slow way. The next part of the real magic is you've got to get a system and follow it. And